This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, record-breaking heat, soaring temperatures and high humidity blanket Nova Scotia for a second day.
Hot dogs, how to keep your pets safe in the extreme heat.
And waste overload. Property owners don't know where to turn to now that a Hants County facility has stopped accepting septic waste.
I'm tracking a cold front rolling through the region tonight in through Friday morning, bringing some much drier air, kicking the heat and humidity out. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. Nova Scotians are facing another sweltering evening as the heat dome continues to cover the region.
After record-breaking temperatures yesterday, more records have already been broken again today. Brett Ruskin was out in the sun for us and has this report.
It certainly felt like record-breaking temperatures yesterday, and today we have the official confirmation. Vast areas of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick had the hottest June 19th yesterday on record since records began being kept. So we took a look at Antigonish. There were records broken in Port Hawkesbury, in Cheticamp, Debert, Greenwood, all had the hottest June 19th on record. So a couple strategies to avoid the heat or cope with the heat. Lots of people are taking to pools, going to different outdoor pools. The city of Halifax opened once again today their Halifax Commons pool at noon, as opposed to just having the evening swims. Brought in a few extra staff to ensure that people have a place to cool off.
It's pretty warm. Oh no, it's nice to go in the pool, I guess. I'm from New York, so here it's just really nice to me. I like the heat personally, but what about you guys?
Yeah, it's nice that I know this isn't usually open during the weekdays, I don't think, so it's nice that it's open today and yesterday too.
It's hot. I'm enjoying going to the pool in the daytime. Sleeping at night is a little bit difficult, but I'm embracing it.
I have to step away from this every so often because it gets, 100 degrees warmer or so than it is outside. Other than that, we're just drinking a lot of water, a lot of pops as well, Gatorade mainly.
Now, for those folks who are waiting for that heat to dissipate, they shouldn't have to wait too much longer. Likely the hottest day of the week has been today, with the temperatures set to go back down to a more seasonal, perhaps more normal level as we approach the weekend. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Halifax.
Cooling centers across the province are in full operation on this day of record heat. Staff are particularly concerned about people who don't have proper shelter at the best of times. The center in Kentville is on Main Street, where manager Deborah Large says they are doing special outreach.
To make sure that we can reach out to those individuals that, haven't even got a roof over their head, and make sure that they've got freezing, we freeze some bottles of water, give them some snacks and some tan lotion, some hats. So we're able to go out and reach them. If they would like to come to the cooling centre, they have we have transportation, so we can bring them either with bus tickets or we can bring them in our own vehicle to the cooling centre to spend some time with us.
To keep some of the most vulnerable safe from the extreme heat, that is our Newsmaker interview just after 6:30. And speaking of the heat, here's a guy who's been watching the numbers pretty closely today, Ryan Snoddon.
And it sounds like we're in for a bit of a break from it.
Absolutely. And there's nowhere to go but down, because temperatures, as we've been talking about, have been record-breaking, and some pretty incredible record-breaking numbers here. Not only at the airport, a new June record there. Never has it been 34 degrees in the month of June at the airport, but even more historic is the downtown site, which dates all the way back to the 1870s, our records go. And the previous record was 34 and a half, 35 at Windsor Park. And so a new June record for the downtown, and really quite historic, because 35 at Windsor Park, 35.2 actually was the temperature at Bedford Range, 35.3 at the Mallet Falls Station. There's only been a handful of times in the history of all the data we have for this province, a handful of times where we've reached over 35 degrees with the temperature in the month of June. And we've done that in more than a few spots today. So a truly historic June day. And of course, yesterday with the records in Bathurst and today also in Newfoundland, this has just been definitely a record-breaking heat wave, one that will go down in the record books for sure. For years to come, we'll be talking about this mid-June push of warmth. And you can see temperatures right now still 34 in the metro area, extremely hot still again along that Atlantic coastline with a little more of a westerly component to the air today. Note Yarmouth just at 20 degrees with that westerly wind. Humidex values have us still soaring into the 40s for many spots. And of course, the dew point is tropical-like, 23 in Kentville, 22. This is typically what you see in the Caribbean, and we're seeing it right here. So the relief, it's coming. Not really, though, for the overnight. Another uncomfortable sleep tonight, but by Friday afternoon, those dew points back down in the comfortable, noticeable, even pleasant range. And so a very nice sleep tomorrow night, a windows open kind of night. That's the good news there. And those temperatures tomorrow will be ranging from 24 to 27 across the mainland, 22 to 24 across Cape Breton, but that will feel so much cooler with that less humidity. Tom and Amy, we'll break down the weekend forecast coming up in a few minutes.
Relief on the way. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you.
And of course, it's not just people who are vulnerable to the hot, humid weather. Your pets are also at risk of heat stroke, and that means taking extra precautions and planning ahead to make sure they're comfortable and safe. The CBC's Hannah Vino has that story.
As Atlantic Canada experiences some extreme heat this week, Patty Seaward wants to make sure her Pomeranian Caesar is safe during the heat wave.
I know some of the signs, like I usually feel this pavement. If I find the pavement too hot for my hand, it's going to be hot for him. And if I can't stand it outside, he can't stand it outside. His concern is my main thing, right? To protect him.
As the weather gets warmer, this veterinarian says pet owners need to know how to alleviate the risk of heat stroke.
It's really important. I know it's something from common sense. Sometimes we forget the common sense, but here is about the life of our pets. Heat stroke can kill them.
He says that it's important to monitor their breathing, watch for dry or sticky gums, and a rapid heart rate. These can indicate that a pet is dehydrated or going into heat stroke. Freya Poirier is taking extra measures to ensure her dog has a cool space available this summer.
I actually went to Costco right when they opened, worried that they'd be out of ACs, and picked up an AC for our bedroom so when it's really hot on Thursday we can keep the house cool.
Paw Prints Doggy Daycare and Grooming is doing everything necessary to keep the four-legged friends in their care happy and protected. When the dogs aren't out enjoying the refreshing pools, they will be able to relax inside with the air conditioning.
We plan to have the dogs inside for most of the day, and we also have cooling mats for them, and we make sure that there's lots of fresh water outside for them and inside as well, but we want to make sure that the pools are nice and cool. We might even bring in some ice, things like that for them to play with during the day.
Dr. Cedillo Flores says the best thing to do for your pets is to change your routine on hot days. Reducing the time spent outdoors is key.
Most of us, we walk our dogs around 9, 10 a.m. or in the afternoon, right after a work day. It's too hot for them. I would say if you are gonna take them outside for some outdoor activities, early in the morning and late at night. We want them walking around without the sunlight over them.
Keeping them cool, hydrated, and out of the sun is the best way to protect your pet from heat stroke this summer. Hannah Vino, CBC News, Halifax.
There's a manhunt underway right now for someone who police say could be armed in the West Pepeswick area of the province's eastern shore. RCMP are looking for 26-year-old Brandon Crawford Grant after there were reports of a man in distress who damaged a home with an axe and then ran into the woods last night. Lockdowns at the local hospital and retirement home have ended, but police are still looking for Grant, who is described as 6'4", weighing 300 pounds. Police warn the man should not be approached.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was in Pictou County today visiting a school and a local hobby farm to promote a national school food program. Ottawa has committed $1 billion to setting one up. The federal government will work with the provinces to expand programs already in place and to set up new ones where they don't exist. The Prime Minister says he understands just how hard it is for Canadians to afford the necessities, including food. He's hoping this national program will help.
We know that these are really difficult times. Even with inflation coming down, even with interest rates starting to come down, and there's positive signs, the prices for everything are just too high.
Nova Scotia is already working on its own plans to make sure elementary schools across the province have food available for students starting the next school year. Negotiations between the provinces and the federal government will begin next month.
The province says changes to some public housing rents will make the system more fair. Although most households pay 30% of their income for rent, about 13% of tenants were paying fixed costs. Those tenants hadn't seen their rent change in decades and were part of old federal programs or deals from the 1990s. Now the province is shifting those 1,400 tenants to match everyone else over the next 4 years.
We're trying to level the playing field for everybody that's in our housing. For example, we've got people who are in the same community, maybe even in the same building or the same floor, that are paying 5% of their income, whereas most of our tenants would be paying 30% of their income. So we're just trying to be, just trying to level that off and making sure that we have a fair approach for all of our tenants.
The changes will affect tenants in every part of the province. There are about 17,000 people living in public housing and 7,300 waiting for a spot.
Halifax property owners with septic tanks are slowly learning they're on their own if they can't find anyone to empty their tank. Last Friday, GFL WestJet landfill advised private septic haulers that as of June 14th, it can no longer accept septic waste from Halifax. It's left many struggling to understand why no one is coming to help. Preston Mulligan reports.
But there's no way you guys can come and pump it?
Ron Nugent has been calling every hauler he can find this week. Anyone who'll come and empty this tank under his deck before it starts backing up into his house.
Very frustrating. I'm losing sleep over it. My stress level's high. I'm nervous about flushing my toilets. I've instructed my family to take 2-minute showers.
Haulers who pump tanks in HRM would typically empty their trucks at GFL WestJet's landfill, but it's off limits to Halifax haulers for at least 3 months. The company declined our request for an interview, but Jarrett Murphy says that's what GFL told him.
We used to just dump straight to a lagoon. Now they have this processing plant, and they're having an issue with the capacity going through there that it was supposed to be able to handle it, but it can't. So they have to cut their capacity for a while till they get it figured out.
Murphy makes his living hauling septage from HRM to WestJet, but today his truck is full. He says every other available dump site is either too expensive or too far.
It means that we're dead in the water. We have nowhere to pump or nowhere to dump, and I can't take any more until I have a place to bring it to process it.
And he's been on the phone too, saying no to everyone who calls.
We have customers calling that have closings on the home sale, and the tank has to be pumped out before the sale can be finalized. Everybody's in a big panic.
Halifax Water isn't required to accept the waste, although it has the facilities. Staff at the Department of Environment and Climate Change say septic tanks are no different than your furnace or your gutters. It's your responsibility to keep it clean and working. Ron Nugent says it's unfair.
You know, I pay taxes. I pay taxes to Halifax Water as well. I know my tax dollars went and paid for all the sewage treatment facilities in the city. So why don't we have anything out here when, a large portion of us, I don't know the percentage, but I'm sure a large portion of us out here, the majority, are on septic systems.
The province says if there's a market demand for more space for septage, well, then it's up to the municipalities and the private sector to make that happen. Preston Mulligan, CBC News, Halifax.
New data suggests the Cape Breton Regional Hospital has the longest wait times in the province for ambulances offloading patients. One local physician says a lack of bed space and an increase in the number of people using the emergency department are part of what's causing the delays. Our Kyle Moore has that story.
At times, the only option for people needing emergency care on the island is at the Cape Breton Regional Hospital in Sydney. According to Dr. Margaret Fraser, she has seen higher than usual admission rates for this time of year, and it's creating problems.
At any given time, the emergency department might be housing 20 or 30 patients who really need to be either upstairs at the regional or in a bed at the outlying sites.
Fraser says there is a lack of available beds, which means there's nowhere to put people, and that creates long wait times. According to a Freedom of Information request released yesterday, in April, paramedics had to wait at the island's largest hospital for more than 2 hours before a patient was seen by a doctor.
It's concerning because, it means an awful long time being tied up with a patient in the ER. And there's other calls if they're waiting to be done that are emergency calls also. And so it puts an increased strain on everybody in the system.
Kevin McMullen, the head of the Nova Scotia Paramedics Union, says offload times vary at hospitals in Nova Scotia. He says it's important for people to call an ambulance for the right reasons.
If people think that calling an ambulance will get them seen quicker, that's not the case. Everybody is triaged when they come by ambulance, the same as if they walked in on themselves into an ER and were triaged.
Nova Scotia Health says an effort is underway to try and improve offload times, and they are making progress.
If you look back to November 2023, the average offload was 170 minutes, and as we move through the months, December through to April, we have seen some fluctuation, but improvement along the way.
Fraser says during the pandemic, all of the floors at the regional hospital managed to find extra spaces to move people out of the emergency department.
When temporary rooms were created, I think more needs to be looked at to do that, because the simple fact of the matter is none of the local hospitals are big enough to house the population we have currently.
McMullen says there has been an increase in the amount of paramedics working in the province, but more are still needed. Kyle Moore, CBC News, Sydney.
Efforts to keep Atlantic Canada's largest media company afloat appear to be working. Documents filed in Nova Scotia Supreme Court say negotiations are underway to find a buyer for Saltwire. Saltwire owns newspapers in Nova Scotia, PEI, and Newfoundland, as well as some online publications. It's been under bankruptcy protection since March because it hadn't been keeping up with payments on its massive debts. Court documents show that 4 entities expressed interest in keeping Saltwire going. The companies overseeing this process have now entered into negotiations with one of those prospective buyers. None of these companies or individuals have been identified. People overseeing the process have asked the court to extend the deadline to August the 9th.
Top city officials from across the region are meeting on PEI this week for the Atlantic Mayors Congress. Affordable housing is one of the big items on the agenda, as well as wastewater, climate change, and public transportation. There will also be talks around protecting our coastline and coastal properties. The meeting goes until Saturday. Well, celebrated Canadian actor Donald Sutherland has died. His family announced his passing this afternoon.
Sutherland was born in St. John, New Brunswick, but spent his teenage years here in Nova Scotia, graduating from Bridgewater High School. His film career spanned 7 decades. He won many awards, including a Primetime Emmy and 2 Golden Globes.
Looks like we're gonna find ourselves another bridge.
Sutherland, seen here in The Dirty Dozen, appeared in many other popular films, including Clute, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and Ordinary People. He's been described as the best actor never to have won an Oscar for a role, but he received an honorary Oscar in 2017.
Sutherland was also an officer of the Order of Canada. He was married 3 times and had 5 children, including Kiefer, a well-known actor in his own right. Donald Sutherland was 88 years old.
Coming up, evacuation order. Hundreds of people are forced from their homes as wildfires burn out of control in central Labrador.
Meet a young Nova Scotian making positive changes in the classroom before graduating high school.
And some folks finding a way to cool off on this hot day. Ryan is up next with his forecast. We'll see you after the break. All right, before we get to Ryan's forecast, let's take a quick look at what's been happening in Labrador.
More than 700 people have been ordered out of Churchill Falls because of an out-of-control wildfire. Strong winds pushed the fire closer to the town yesterday, triggering the evacuation order. It currently remains on the opposite side of the Churchill River from the community.
The winds remain strong and they are fueling the flames, but are currently helping to keep the fire away from town. The evacuation order is expected to remain in place for the next 24 to 48 hours. We'll have the full story on this a bit later in the show.
And weather conditions certainly not helping things there, because I'm assuming it's pretty dry as well.
Yep, but here things are going to cool off a bit.
Yeah, and cooling off there today, thankfully, but the wind, as you said, is really problematic, gusting 50 to 60 kilometers per hour. That is the drier air pushing in on the other side of the front. And yeah, so the winds will eventually ease there. Temps really cooled off there today, but they had record-breaking heat a couple of days ago. And so we're all going to cool down across Atlantic Canada for the next few days for sure. And even some wet weather in the forecast for Churchill Falls early next week, thanks to the system we're going to see on Sunday. Let's take a look at our high temperatures today. In case you missed it off the top, a historic day today. Only a handful of times have we hit 35 degrees in the month of June in the province, and we did that today, not only at the Mallee Falls station there near Sheet Harbour, but also in the Halifax metro area. 35 degrees on the peninsula is a new record, a new June record. That's never happened in the Halifax metro area in the month of June, so notable there as well. It's still 33, 34 degrees in and around the peninsula right now. And again, feeling into the 40s. So just punishing heat if you're out in it for too long at all. Make sure that you're staying hydrated as best you can. The risk of heat illness really increases with this type of heat. You can see feeling 40 to 41 in the metro area right now and through the valley. A little bit cooler through the northeast and up towards the Cape Breton region. We are looking at those dew points, though, that are very, very saturated. Oppressive humidity in the mix all across the province right now. And we've been watching some storms tracking through and some severe thunderstorm watches in effect for these storms earlier, now starting to push their way out of Guysborough County. Pretty quiet for now, but this is the cold front that's coming in, and we've got some more activity firing up in New Brunswick right now. That is heading back down towards the Amherst area, Northport, and along that Northumberland shore. So we're going to be watching for that. And we're also seeing some activity in Maine that may clip in across the province for places like Yarmouth and Shelburne and Digby. We'll be watching for that as well. And again, it's all thanks to this frontal boundary separating the drier air from the warm and muggy air. And so we all run the risk of some scattered showers and thunderstorms through this evening and even into the overnight. You could be awoken by some rumbles of thunder as that frontal boundary tracks through. It means business for sure with these air masses clashing. Tomorrow, we're looking at temperatures ranging between 20 and 24 degrees across Cape Breton. A much drier air mass with that northerly flow. No doubt about it, we'll feel a noticeable difference. 27 in Sherbrooke tomorrow and through Sheet Harbour, down towards Musquodoboit, Halifax in the 25, 26, 27 range. The chance for showers is early on here, and then it's going to be clearing away off to the south. Temperatures near 23 in onshore winds should squeak to 25 for inland areas of the North Shore tomorrow. But again, a noticeable difference in how it's going to be feeling. We'll look to some 27s, maybe even 28 degrees tomorrow. Bridgewater down through Kedzie. It's going to be, again, one of those days that's very warm, but a noticeable difference. And we are looking at those early morning shower chances clearing away for you folks in through the southwest as well. Saturday, clouds likely dominant here where you can see those cooler temperatures. This is where we'll see the most dominant high to even edging into mid-level cloud cover. A brighter day towards the north and east, including Cape Breton and the Northumberland shore. That's where we'll see the skies brightest. So here's how it times out. That front sinks to the south. Note for Saturday, This is, again, high cloud cover starting to push its way in. Maybe a late afternoon shower starting to squeak into the forecast here. Forecast models edging with that idea over the last little bit. And then we are looking at these showers starting to creep their way in on Sunday. The best chances are going to be as we work our way through the southwest of the province, but can't rule out an afternoon shower even in through the north and east and edging into Cape Breton as that frontal boundary comes through. And with that front, with that warm front lifting in, we're going to see an increase in the dew points again. And so the muggy meter on the rise. So we'll enjoy a couple of nice days and then squeaking up into the muggy range again, especially for the Sunday night sleeping conditions. And it will be notably noticeable as we work our way through the early stages of next week. So those showers Sunday and Monday, they'll be welcomed after this hot weather fire index fire danger map on the moderate to high level for most of the province. So we do need the wet weather Sunday, Monday. Cool things off, dampen things up, and then back into some summer weather as we turn the page into mid next week. Tom and Amy.
Here we go. Summer, full tilt.
We'll take it.
Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
The weather update is brought to you by Tourism Gaspésie. Plan your stay in Gaspésie at tourismgaspésie.com and enjoy extraordinary moments.
Well, Seth Borden hasn't even graduated high school yet, but he's already making a difference for the next generation of students.
The grade 12 student from Halifax is part of CBC's Black Changemaker series, where we highlight people creating meaningful change in Atlantic Canada. Have a look.
It's always tough to be the odd person out, and I would like to change that any way I can. I know when I was younger, I didn't really have confidence, and I still struggle with having confidence all the time, but if you put your mind to it, you can really succeed in it. You just gotta keep on practicing over and over and over again. Hi. My name is Seth Borden. So I'm a grade 12 student at Sutherland High School. I'm involved in the O2 program. You get to job shadow to see if this job's where you want to start at, or what kind of career that can lead you up into your future. I always liked going to school. I just always liked to see my friends and stuff and making connections, and especially where I want to become a teacher in the future. I always just loved different subjects like English, math, science, everything. And this is the music room. Today we are at École de St. Catharines. That's where I did my first co-op placement, and I've been here for 3 years now, it would be. So I would come every Monday for the whole year and just help them with reading, math, science, one-on-one support basically. I feel like just having someone that looks like them in the school system that they can trust, or maybe that they can relate to, is just easier for them to come to school and want to learn more. Like this year I had my first African Nova Scotian teacher, and it was just a massive change because I could tell her stuff that I couldn't tell my other teachers, because she could kind of relate that, and just seeing students that now have their first time having a black teacher or a teacher of color, and how much that has impacted their lives and changed their stories.
Every single day you would just look at him, and he would always have this big smile and just make everyone else smile. He had a lot of positive energy, a lot.
I was having a hard time doing some math last year and this year, and when he walked into the class, I asked him if he could try to help me do my math, and he said, yeah, of course. Now I know how to do that type of math now because of Seth.
I had clothes that didn't fit me anymore, so we brought them in it was jeans and track pants and stuff, and they were all excited because they look up to me as an older brother, and they were repping the clothes that I wore, and they were big, but they just went home, and their parents and some teachers came together and got it sized so that it could fit them. Every Monday they were wearing one of my outfits, which is so nice.
And even with our children with diverse needs in the Learning Center, he would help and connect with kids and play games with them. And he has such incredible patience.
Yeah, I can think of a particular student last year that was having some challenges academically, socially, and whenever Seth came in, that student was always like, can I work with him? Can I work? Just right over, I want to work with Seth. And we don't always see that with that student, yeah. So it was just so great to have a positive role model.
Just the students that I worked, they had such supportive teachers, and the teachers would always tell me what their struggles were, and I wouldn't treat them any differently because I had challenges myself. So in elementary, it was a predominantly white school, and there wasn't that much people that looked like me or African Nova Scotian descent, so it was a struggle to fit in, have the same resources and support, but also the challenging part was in grade 1, I was on an IPP program, so that's basically like where you get different work, but it's independent sort of. I have learning challenges like dysgraphia, dyslexia, and ADHD, and they basically think that everyone that has struggles like that should be put on that program. Once I got older, like people would say like, oh, you can't be in my group because maybe you aren't capable of doing this, and it's hard to find a way out, but eventually once I talked and they saw the improvement, I was finally taken off of it in grade 9. So I'm going to go to Dalhousie next year and study sociology or psychology, and then after that I would like to get my BEd and go into education from there, and my goal is to either do EAL or Learning Center or Resource. I just enjoy making it easy for people to come to school and want to learn more and be themselves at school and have like a trusted place, because not always at home is always a trusted place. Maybe school is a trusted and safe place. Just being welcoming and kind is always the best part of my day.
Seth has the makings, all the makings of a great teacher.
Yeah, the students love him already.
Up next, I'll talk with Deborah Large, who is helping get the homeless some respite from the extreme heat in the Kentville area. That's our newsmaker interview.
Please stay with us. You're watching CBC Nova Scotia News.
The Department of Community Services and some municipalities are working with service providers across the province to help people experiencing homelessness to help cope with the heat. Several cooling centres have been set up across Nova Scotia. Deborah Large is shelter manager at Open Arms in Kentville, where they are making a special effort to help those in need cope with the heat. Ms. Large, tell us, what kind of effect are conditions having on people there?
Well, obviously, this is very early on in the season to be having such extreme weather. We had a fair number of people come through the cooling centre yesterday. And yeah, everybody's feeling the effects, and it's really important that we get the message out there as to where the cooling centre is, when it's open, etc. So yeah, people are really feeling the heat.
All right, tell us a little bit about that. What is available at the cooling centre that you have set up there, and how can you help people?
So the cooling centre is run as a community service. It's run by Open Arms and in collaboration with the town of Kentville. It's open to all members of the public. Obviously, for Open Arms, we work with unsheltered members of the community, so it's really important that we reach those, but it's for everyone, so everyone is welcome. The services that we have obviously a welcoming smile, it's well staffed, and we have cold drinks, cold water, juice, light refreshments, snacks, and the town of Kentville have provided us with some board games and activities. So there's conversation, light-hearted conversation, and lots of laughs. And it's just some respite to get in from the heat. So if you're unable to get into an area that's cool, you're welcome to come down and spend some time with us.
I'm sure the relief is welcomed by those who are dropping in, for sure. And it's a bit complicated for you, isn't it? Because, yes, you want to help people in the community of Kentville, but you're also trying to do some outreach into the community as well and helping people who are not just in the town. Can you explain that to me? Because sometimes that might get overlooked in a situation like this.
Yes, certainly. So we had a 7-week outreach pilot that was funded earlier on this year, and we reached 22 individuals that were not connected with services during that time. So now this extreme weather is here. We have used some of the funding that's available for the cooling centre to make sure that we can reach out to those individuals that, haven't even got a roof over their head, and make sure that they've got freezing, we freeze some bottles of water, give them some snacks and some tan lotion, some hats. So we're able to go out and reach them. If they would like to come to the cooling centre, they have we have transportation, so we can bring them either with bus tickets or we can bring them in our own vehicle to the cooling centre to spend some time with us. It's really important. Those are some of the most vulnerable people in our community. So it's really important that we do continue with that outreach wherever possible.
And how is that outreach being received?
Gratefully, so grateful that the feeling of that we're even thinking of them in this really extreme heat. There's lots of gratitude and really big smiles, and and hopefully these cold drinks and that connection, is saving lives and saving people's health. That's what it's all about.
It might build a future connection, perhaps, as well.
Absolutely. That's a big part of what outreach is. It's about finding those hard to reach people, building relationships, and connecting them with services that can really address some of the issues and barriers to housing.
You mentioned off the top there how this is early for a heat wave or a heat dome like what we're seeing in Nova Scotia this week. Any lessons learned for those future extreme heat situations that we will likely face in the future?
I think it's preparation, to be fair. I think that's the main thing. I think certainly you can probably tell by my accent, I'm from the UK, but I have lived in Canada for 15 years. And in that time, as we've all seen, a real marked increase in these extreme weather conditions, and certainly the heat and the fires. So I think it's preparation about it always being on our radar, and checking in on our neighbours and looking out for each other. But yeah, people just need to try and be prepared. If you're going on a long car journey and you don't have air conditioning, making sure that you freeze some bottles of water, throw them in the freezer the night before, take more than you think you're going to need, just in case you have any issues along the way.
Yeah, good reminder for folks for sure. Deborah Large, really appreciate you talking to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, heat dome. People in some parts of Canada could be dealing with record temperatures for days to come.
Welcome back. As we told you earlier, an out-of-control wildfire has forced the evacuation of Churchill Falls in Labrador. More than 700 people have been ordered out of the community.
The CBC's Peter Cowan has the latest from the evacuation center in Happy Valley, Goose Bay.
This is where the evacuees have come first in Happy Valley Goose Bay. After driving over the road 3 hours from Churchill Falls, they all registered here at the YMCA, which is now being used as a shelter. But just as fast as people showed up here, people from town also showed up to offer them an empty camper or a spare bedroom, showing them kindness in a difficult time.
Yeah, we've had some of those come from away experiences. I'm very pleased and proud to say, you know, some folks actually were showing up, and I was looking at them. They were there last night. They were kind of in the background, and as families were coming in and wondering what they were going to do, and it was going to be a few hours before we set up all the mattresses that we needed here and at other shelters, they just reached out and said, do you want to come to my home?
The fire is only a couple kilometers from Churchill Falls, and the strong winds today have been whipping it up. Fortunately, it sits on the other side of the Churchill River, and as long as that is the case, they're pretty confident that the fire won't harm the community, but they don't know what Mother Nature has in store. There are some people who are still left behind in order to keep the massive hydroelectric plant running and keep the lights on not just across Labrador, but in Quebec as well. Everyone here is anxious to find out just when they might be able to go home, and today the Premier said it's likely to be at least a couple of days, maybe even longer. They are hoping that some help from the rest of Canada may speed up that process. They've asked for 2 water bombers and other specialists to come help fight this fire. Peter Cowan, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay, Labrador.
The heat dome is still hovering over much of central and, as we've been telling you, eastern Canada. Heat warnings are in effect in 6 provinces now, stretching from Ontario to Newfoundland and Labrador. Parts of Ontario got a bit of relief with thunderstorms this morning, but the provincial government says electricity usage is being pushed to near record levels. Atlantic Canada is getting the brunt of the heat today, of course. Hot, humid conditions are expected to last until tomorrow for most places, but people in southern Ontario could suffer until Sunday. The heat dome is also affecting much of the U.S. Midwest and Northeast and is expected to peak today.
In international news, intense fighting continues across numerous fronts in Russia's war on Ukraine. CBC News has gained exclusive access to a medical evacuation bus that transports injured Ukrainian soldiers from the front lines. Briar Stewart spoke with soldiers who had just been injured in one of the war's most heated battle zones.
I'm on a medical evacuation bus with injured soldiers, many of whom have just come off the front line this morning. Soldiers talked about being injured by drones, being fired at while they were in tanks, and it's been a very arduous journey even to get to this point on the bus where they're then going to be transferred to the hospital. Soldiers basically have to work with the others in their unit to extract themselves. They have to go to an armored vehicle, then they're picked up by the military, they're taken to a stabilization point, and then they are transferred onto a bus here. We're in the Dnipro region, and they're going to be taken to the hospital where they will get treatment. I can tell you we spoke to quite a few of the soldiers on board this bus. A lot of them were mobilized, had only been on the front line for days, a few weeks. They are now injured.
Very difficult. Дуже важко. Тому що коли накладаєш турнікети, ноги відмовляють. І спочатку я пробував повзти, це там дуже густа місцевість, дерева, кущі, і тому мене 2 побратими виводили, несли.
This bus, a lot of the people that work it are volunteers, including volunteers from foreign countries, and they don't really know when these buses will run ahead of time. It really depends on the number of injured soldiers, and often they don't even have enough space to put everybody on board. Briar Stewart, CBC News in the Dnipro region.
A strike at WestJet has been averted for now. The airline's mechanics were set to walk off the job tonight. Both sides have agreed to resume negotiations. More than 670 unionized mechanics rejected a tentative deal last week. Their union says the company is offering wages that are 30% less than those of other North American airlines. WestJet wants binding arbitration, but the union is opposed. The airline had canceled 50 flights as a preventative measure. It says passengers should check the status of flights today.
Canada's men's national soccer team is making its first ever appearance in the Copa America tonight in Atlanta. It's going to be a tough debut. They're playing Argentina, the defending Copa and World Cup champions. The CBC's Jamie Strachan has a preview.
For Canada's men's soccer team, a unique opportunity tonight here in Atlanta. a chance to take on the #1 team in the world in Argentina, and arguably one of the greatest players of all time in Lionel Messi. Messi is a true global superstar, and fans from around the world have converged on Atlanta to watch him begin what is believed to be his last major international tournament. Tonight is the first game of the Copa America tournament, and while most of the 70,000 plus in attendance are here to see Messi, many have traveled to support the Canadian side as well.
How many people can say they've seen their country play against the #1 team in the world, let alone the #1 player in the world? That's rare for Canada.
Canada is a huge underdog in this tournament. After losing all 3 of its games at the World Cup last year, this tournament offers a chance to play some of the world's best as it prepares to host the World Cup in 2 years. No tougher test than Argentina.
No, the belief is that they can win. The focus is on themselves and on their process, and sort of that disciplined approach is what it's going to take to continue getting better every single day, which is what the focus of the group is.
After Argentina, Canada faces Peru and Chile and will need a positive result in at least 2 of those games if it hopes to advance beyond the group stage and show it belongs on the field with some of the best in the world. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Atlanta.
A storied baseball park is about to make history again. Rickwood Field in Alabama is the oldest professional ballpark in the U.S. Tonight, it will host its first ever regular season Major League Baseball game.
You are walking through a place where greats have also walked.
This just feels like the perfect time, the perfect place, with the perfect people.
The ballpark has hosted more than 180 Hall of Famers, including Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, and Willie Mays. He died just 2 days ago. Tonight's game honors the Negro Leagues, which were active from the 1920s to the 60s. Strength in resource and industrial stocks helped Canada's main stock index close higher today, while U.S. markets were mixed. Here's a look at where things closed.
For news you can trust, we have the latest on what's happening in your community and a weather forecast you can rely on no matter where you are in Atlantic Canada. I'm Amy Smith.
And I'm Ryan Snoddon.
Join us for Atlantic Tonight.
Right after the National.
Don't know about you, but I certainly appreciated the air conditioning today. That is for sure.
Nice. But I got out for a nice coffee, so it was a nice little enjoyment of summer, but then back into the cool.
Yeah, and it's all about staying cool any way you can. And again, Mother Nature was providing some nice breezes along parts of the coast today, but it's all about the wind, right? I was just telling Tom and Amy off air, Cow Bay, which is, of course, just outside of the Halifax area, there's a weather station right along the coast there that was sitting at 16, 17, 18 all afternoon with a onshore flow. The winds shifted to a little more west to northwest, and it went from 16 to 32 degrees in 1 hour.
That's wild.
Yeah, huge temperature jump. Now, speaking of the coast, let's have a look at our viewer picture of the day. And this one just outside of Lunenburg, and of course, Blue Rocks. It's been a while since we had a picture from Blue Rocks.
Yeah.
Carol, thank you so much for sharing.
It looks cool there, doesn't it?
It does.
That's a neat little skyline, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. So tomorrow, chance of a shower, Blue Rocks, and through Halifax and down towards Bridgewater and Yarmouth in the morning. And then that front will move to the south, and we're going to see a mix of sun and cloud, and temperatures still very warm for the first full day of summer. And we'll be enjoying that with pretty nice Friday evening. Now, Saturday, things will cloud up, no doubt, especially through the southwest half of the province. A mix of sun and cloud for Cape Breton and the Northumberland Shore region. And we'll be watching those temperatures to range from around 22 to 25. A little bit cooler down towards Yarmouth. Temperatures likely into the high teens there. And then for Sunday, we will be watching some showers to move in. So watch also with that cold front tonight, the risk of some showers and thunderstorms tracking in because, again, drier air clashing with this very muggy air will be lots of fuel for the storms. There's the cloud building in on Saturday. Maybe an isolated chance of a shower moving in for Saturday afternoon. For the most part, though, holding off until Sunday. And then you can see that front starting to move in. And with that southwest flow, it will be increasing muggy for early next week as well.
All right, well, some young at heart seniors are busting a move in a new dance group in Tokyo. Take a look at this. The Breakdancing Club is the only one in Japan made up of entirely elderly citizens.
It was formed to encourage seniors to stay young through exercise. A 38-year-old former breakdancing champ coaches the group in practices, performances, and competitions.
And the dancers say they're inspired by the debut of the breakdancing competition in the Paris Olympic Games next month.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.